Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Vabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesh Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad-Bhāgavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 13, The Appearance of Lord Varāha. So, yesterday we have seen some of very beautiful prayers glorifying Bhu Varāha. Now we come to text 44. Vidhunvata vedamayam nijam vapur janastapasatyanivasino vayam Sata Shikhodbhuta Shivam Bindubhir Vimrujyamana Bhrushamisha Pavitah. Translation.
O Supreme Lord, undoubtedly we are inhabitants of the most pious planets, the Jana, Tapas, and Satyalokas. But still we have been purified by the drops of water sprinkled from your shoulder hairs by the shaking of your body. Purport. Ordinarily, the body of the hog is considered impure, but one should not consider that the hog incarnation assumed by the Lord is also impure. That form of the Lord is the personified Vedas and is transcendental. The inhabitants of the Jana, Tapas, and Satyalokas are the most pious persons in the material world. But because those planets are, there are so many material impurities there also. Therefore, when the drops of water from the tips of the Lord's shoulder hairs were sprinkled upon the bodies of the inhabitants of the higher planets, they felt purified. The Ganges water is pure because it is emanating from the toe of the Lord, and there is no difference between the water emanating from the toe and that from the tips of the hair on the shoulder of the Lord boar. They are both absolute and transcendental. Hare Krishna.
So, residents of Janas Tapasatya Nivasino Vayam. They are saying, Oh, my dear Supreme Lord, undoubtedly, we at these planets are the most pious living entities. And still, we are feeling great sense of purification by the drops of water when you shook your hairs, when you shook your body, and the droplets were sprinkled upon us. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, ordinarily the body of a hog is considered impure. But this material understanding should not be extended to Varahadev. Right? So this is the basic flaw. People make the mistake. Prabhupada says here, now we sprinkle the Ganga water to purify something, and here are the people who is praying here. They are the Jana, Satya, Tapa, Nivasino. They are the residents of Janalok, Tapalok, and Satyalok. They are extremely pious personalities. And when the Supreme Lord, he jumped inside the ocean, Garbhotak ocean, when the water sprinkled, the beautiful analogy of the ocean dividing into two, and huge waves forming a namaskar to the Supreme Lord. And when the Lord took up Bhudevi, planet Earth on the tusk, and when he began to shake his body, the water droplets were thrown up to the planets of Jana, Tapa, and Satyaloka. And when they received this water from the body of the Varaha, they felt extremely purified. So Prabhupada writes here, there is no difference between this water and the Ganga water. Right. Ganga water is the Charanamrit of the Lord. When Vamanadev, when he takes his leg up, he pierces the covering of the universe. And the 3 drops of river Vaitarana, which separates material and the spiritual world, they flow through, washing the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, and they appear as Ganga, delivering the 3 worlds. Similarly, this water purified the sages at Jana, Tapa and Satyaloka. Text 45. Savai Bhraštamatis tavaishate yakarmanam paramaparakarmana yadyogamaya gunayogamohitam vishvam samastam bhagavan videhisham. Translation?
Translation. O Lord, there is no limit to your wonderful activities. Anyone who desires to know the limit of your activities is certainly nonsensical. Everyone in this world is conditioned by the powerful mystic potencies. Please bestow your causeless mercy upon these conditioned souls. Purport. Mental speculators who want to understand the limit of the unlimited are certainly nonsensical. Every one of them is captivated by the external potencies of the Lord. The best thing for them is to surrender unto Him, knowing Him to be inconceivable, for thus they can receive His causeless mercy. This prayer was offered by the inhabitants of the higher planetary systems, namely Jana, Tapo, and Satyaloka, who are far more intelligent and powerful than humans. Vishwam Samastam is very significant here. There are the material world and the spiritual world. The sages pray. Both worlds are bewildered by your different energies. Those who are in the spiritual world are absorbed in your loving service, forgetting themselves and you also. And those in the material world are absorbed in material sense gratification and therefore also forget you. No one can know you because you are unlimited. It is best not to try to know you by unnecessary mental speculation. Rather, kindly bless us so that we can worship you with costless devotional service. Hare Krishna.
The sages began to pray. They are concluding the prayer with this. O Lord, there is no limit to your wonderful activities. And the Samasta Vishwam Samastam, the Vishwam Samastam is actually including Param, Apara Karmanaha. That it is foolish to know the limit of your activities, where Ananta is chanting your glories for infinite time and he has not finished even beginning the chanting of your glories. As far as we are concerned, we are simply happy being engaged in your devotional service. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, there are mental speculators who want to understand the limit of the unlimited. How you can understand the limit of unlimited, right? So this is not possible. Devotees of the Lord, they understand that this is not possible and the Lord is inconceivable. So 3 words specifically. The Lord is inconceivable, achintya. Otherwise, we try to reduce the Lord to our own experience. The Lord is aprameya. Aprameya means beyond any mathematical siddhanta. And the Lord is adhokshaja, beyond the realm of A to Z, adhokshaja. So these are the 3 beautiful names of the Lord. Achintya, aprameya, and adhokshaja. And here, this is the prayer offered by such great personalities who are residing at Janalok, Tapalok, and Satyalok. The residents there are far more intelligent, far more superior than the human beings. And they are saying that, my dear Lord, you are Achintya, we cannot know you. It is just like when Einstein writes, that there must be a divinity or there must be a transcendent nature which is controlling this universe. Or, we have seen such great scientists like Newton, Einstein, Bose. They are acknowledging the Supreme Lord. What to speak of the common men who may be arguing here and there. But such personality, so this is the comparison there. Samasta Vishwam Samastam indicates, Prabhupada says, both the material world and spiritual world. So it is not that, the Lord is absent from the spiritual world and is trying to somehow get the living entities from the material world. No. Prabhupada says, both these worlds are bewildered by your different energies. The Lord is bewildering the material world with the Maya Shakti. The Lord is bewildering means engaging the spiritual world with his spiritual Shakti. And this is simultaneously happening. So no one can know Anantaparam, the power of the Supreme Lord, the limit of the unlimited. And here the sages are praying that we do not want to know everything about you, my dear Lord. We want to be engaged in your devotional service. Please engage in your ahaituki, apratihata bhakti. And this is how the sages conclude their prayers. Text 46. Maitreya uvacha ityupasthiyo manayosam man manosau munivir brahmavadivi salile swakhurakranta upadatta vitavanim. Translation.
The sage Maitreya said, "The Lord, being thus worshipped by all the great sages and transcendentalists, touched the earth with his hooves and placed it on the water." Purport: the earth was placed on the water by his inconceivable potency. The Lord is all power, and therefore he can sustain the huge planets either on the water or in the air, as he likes. The tiny human brains cannot conceive how these potencies of the Lord can act. Man can give some vague explanation of the laws by which some phenomena are made possible, but actually, the tiny human brain is unable to conceive of the activities of the Lord, which are therefore called the inconceivable. Yet, the frog philosophers still try to give some imaginary explanation. Hare Krishna.
Sage Maitreya continued that the Lord, being thus worshipped by the great sages and the transcendentalist Viranchi Mukhyam, headed by Lord Brahma, and other great sages such as Marichi and others, he touched the earth with his hooves and placed it on the water. Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that if you keep earth on the water, earth will again sink. But here, by the inconceivable potency of the Lord, earth was floating. And somebody may say, how can earth float on water? Prabhupada says, what to speak of water? By his inconceivable potency, Achinti Shakti, Dharayami Aham Ojasa, the Lord makes earth float in the air. Right? So, Prabhupada says, the earth was placed on the water by his inconceivable potency. And as he likes, he can place it on the water or in the air. The tiny human brain, Prabhupada writes here, cannot conceive the potencies of the Supreme Lord. And that's why, unless one accepts the Achintya Shakti of the Supreme Lord, right, one cannot actually begin to understand the divinity of the Supreme Lord. Without accepting the Achintya Shakti, one is bound to become atheistic. They will give this explanation, that explanation, trying to match with this science, with this invention, that invention. Prabhupada says, the tiny human brain is unable to conceive the activities of the Lord. They will have some vague explanation for some law or some phenomena here and there, do some repeated experiments, plot some heuristic, plot some XY axis, try to do some regression and come up with certain laws. This is how the laws are derived, right? The laws that we treat as the absolute truth, like, G is equal to 9.81 or E is equal to MC square or this or that, all these big laws, these are just regression based curve fitting kind of a modeling. Okay, so Prabhupada says, men can give some vague explanation in the name of some phenomena, but the tiny human brain is unable to conceive activities of the Supreme Lord. And we are not talking about human brains here. Here there are Satya Jana Tapa Nivasino. In the previous verse, Prabhupada explained, these are the personalities who are by far superior to the human beings. And even they are unable to understand, then what to speak of a froggish philosopher. Text 47. Saitya Bhagavanurvim Vishvaksena Prajapatihi Rasaya Lilayon Lilayonitam Apsunyasa Yayau Harihi. Translation.
In this manner, the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the maintainer of all living entities, raised the earth from within the water, and having placed it afloat on the water, he returned to his own abode. Purport. The personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, designs by his will to the material planets in his innumerable incarnations for particular purposes, and again he goes back to his own abode. When he descends, he is called an avatar, because avatar means one who descends. Neither the Lord himself nor his specific devotees who come to this earth are ordinary living entities like us.
After performing in this manner, Lord Vishnu, the maintainer of all the living entities, Sa Itham Bhagavan, he is Vishvaksena and he is Prajapati. This Vishvaksena is another name of the Lord, and Prajapati is the maintainer of the living entities. The Lord is also called as Prajapati. He lifted Urvim. So we have Urvi, Sri Chaitanya Prabhu's daughter. So Urvi means the earth. Sa Itham Bhagavan Urvim. So the Lord picked up the Urvim, the earth, and he lifted. And this is how the Rasaya, from the waters of Rasa, Leelaya, very easily. Unnitam, raised, Apsu, on the water, Nyasaha, placed the water, Yayau, and returned to his abode. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the Lord eternally exists in the spiritual world. And time to time, as per the activity, the Lord will descend to the material world. And when the Lord descends, that is in Sanskrit, it is avatar. That is when the Lord descends. So it is not that the Mayavadi understanding of this is that there is only the light, and the light will take the form, will do some activity, and again the light will merge in the light and again become the light. No, there is universe, there are unlimited Vaikuntha planets beyond the light, right? Where the Supreme Lord eternally resides there. So what a beautiful hope-giving and the description this is, that Lord Ramachandra, along with Sita Devi, Lakshmanji, Bharat, Shatrughna, and Hanumanji is here only in Kim Purushaloka. They are all residing now, today, even now, and they will continue to reside in the spiritual world called as Saket Dham or Ayodhya. So similarly, there are the unlimited Vishnu Vaikuntha Lokas and unlimited Vishnu incarnations who are ruling the particular Vaikuntha Loka. There is Narasimhadev, there is Varahadev. Here we see Varahadev going back to his abode. There is Matsya Avatar, Kurma Avatar. There are unlimited devotees of the Lord there. So nothing is vacant. Neither anything is impersonal. Everything is personal and everything is full. And here the Supreme Lord returns back home to his abode of Vaikuntha. Right. So while returning, Lord doesn't lose his form and he again becomes a light, or he becomes the Nirakar, Nirvishesh. No, nothing like that. The Lord comes. So Prabhupada's beautiful joke. Prabhupada used to say that nothing is vacant except the tiny brains. Right. So here one can see, Saitham Bhagavan Urvim, the Lord again returned back home, back to Godhead. Ya evamitam harimedaso hare katham subhadram kathaniyamayinas shrunvita bhaktya shravayeta voshatim janardanosya shurudhi prasedati. Translation.
If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Boar, which is worthy of description, the Lord who is within the heart of everyone is very pleased. Purport. In his various incarnations, the Lord appears, acts, and leaves behind him a narrative history which is as transcendental as he himself. Every one of us is fond of hearing some wonderful narrations, but most stories are neither auspicious nor worth hearing because they are of the inferior quality of the material nature. Every living entity is of superior quality, spirit soul, and nothing material can be auspicious for him. Intelligent persons should therefore hear personally and cause others to hear the descriptive narrations of the Lord's activities, for that will destroy the pangs of the material existence. Out of his causeless mercy only, the Lord comes to this earth and leaves behind his merciful activities, so that the devotees may derive transcendental benefit.
So this is the Falashruti of this episode. Ya evametam harimedhayo harehe. Harimedhayo harehe. But Harimedhayo, who destroys the material existence of the devotees. So this is the name of the Lord, Harimedhayo, Harehe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Katham, Subhadram. This Katha, this narration is called as Subhadra, all auspicious. Punya Shravana Kirtana. Right. Kathaniyamayiнаha. Shrunvita Bhaktya Shravayeta Voshitam. If this is heard in devotion and described in devotion, in devotional service, then the Supreme Lord, Janardano Si Ashuhu Ridhi Prasidati, the Supreme Lord Janardana, who resides in everybody's heart, becomes extremely pleased. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, in the various incarnations, the Lord appears, acts, and leaves behind a wonderful story. Okay, all we are looking for is a story. And when the Lord comes, he acts and he returns, there is a beautiful story, that there is a story of Ramayana. You know, for lakhs of years, people are discussing Ramayana. It is unending beauty. You watch one time, two time, three time, here again and again. Correct? There are so many devotees who do daily Sundar Kanda reading also. It just becomes more and more beautiful by more and more reciting it. Then there is a story of Mahabharata. Then there is a story of Krishna Leela, Dashavatar Leela. So the Lord appears, acts, and leaves behind a narrative history. Why? Because every living entity is looking for a hero. They are looking for a hero, right? When people are desperately watching a cricket match, why? Because at least now today Virat will do some 50 or 100, and one hero after another hero keeps on changing in the material world. Sometime it was Sachin, then became Virat, then became Rohit, now it is Shubman, one after another. Because people, this urge to hear something wonderful is there from the spiritual world. Because we had the association of the Supreme Lord who is performing all these, the amazing, wonderful activities. And we are finding that wonder, forgetting the Supreme Lord in the material world. The material wonderful activities, Prabhupada says, they are neither auspicious nor worth hearing. They are wonderful activities at times, just like I still remember that day very vividly, 9/11. And it was such inconceivable. I was wondering that entire 101-story building fell down. Two buildings like that. And, taking the plane like this. But what is the auspiciousness in that? Thousands of people losing their life. Thousands, millions of people losing their means of their lives. A complete economy collapsing. Or recently the attack on Israel and the counter by Israel, right? So the material activities, Prabhupada writes here, although at times they may appear very wonderful, but they are not wonderful. There is nothing neither auspicious, not worth hearing. Living entity is Atman, and he can only be satisfied with spiritual wonderful activities which are performed by the Supreme Lord. So by his causeless mercy, the Lord appears, and by the causeless mercy, devotees like Srila Prabhupada leave behind such beautiful literature. Right. So here we are hearing from Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada is describing. Prabhupada used to say, my purports are my devotional ecstasies. Right. So here, one who hears, that means all of us. One who describes, that is Srila Prabhupada's purports in a devotional service attitude. The Lord will be extremely pleased by such wonderful activities. Text 49. Tasmin prasanne sakalasisham prabho kim durlabham ta bhiralam lavatmabhi ananya drishta bhajatam guhashayah swayam vidatte swagatim paramparam. Translation.
Nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfection stage by the Lord Himself, who is seated in everyone's heart. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 10.10, the Lord gives intelligence to the pure devotees so that they may be elevated to the highest perfectional stage. It is confirmed herein that a pure devotee who constantly engages in the loving service of the Lord is awarded full knowledge necessary to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For such a devotee, there is nothing valuable to be achieved but the Lord's service. If one serves faithfully, there is no possibility of frustration because the Lord Himself takes charge of the devotee's advancement. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart, and He knows the devotee's motive and arranges everything achievable. In other words, the pseudo devotee who is anxious to achieve material gains cannot attain the highest perfection stage because the Lord is in knowledge of his motive. One merely has to become sincere in his purpose, and then the Lord is there to help in every way. Thank you, Prabhu.
And when the Lord is pleased, tasmin prasanne sakala ashisham prabhu. Tasmin, when you please the Supreme Lord, sakala ashisha. Look at the meaning ashisha. Ashisha means all the benedictions. Prabhu. Kim durlabham ta viralam lavatmabhi. What is unattainable for such a personality who has pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead? By the transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that for such a devotee, the Lord gives intelligence from within, dadami buddhi yogam tam, so that they will be elevated to the highest perfectional stage. So, what is impossible to achieve is true for the devotee, one who has understood will of the Lord and has become purified from the material contamination. Right. So sometimes when I remember when I used to read this way early in Krishna consciousness, I used to think, oh, if I read like this every day, if I please the Lord like this, I will achieve anything materially. I will become like this, I will become like that. Prabhupada says, no. Devotee, he is engaged in devotional service, and his highest enlightenment is to be engaged in devotional service. So Lord will award devotional service. Devotional service, which is very durlabha to achieve, will be achieved by such a devotee. Otherwise, Prabhupada in one of the later purports writes about this. Prabhupada says, for the Lord, it is nothing impossible to give. Very easily, Lord can give few planetary systems to a devotee. You will say, okay, you become Brahma. We have seen that, right? That every day there are 1 billion suns are being born in the universe. That means every second 5,000 suns are born. We are talking about sun, but not earth. So for the Lord, it is not very difficult to make somebody in charge of a planetary system. We are not talking about some mayor or some Nagar Sevak or Amdar or Khasdar or something like that. But the Lord doesn't want to inebriate his devotees with material entanglement. Therefore, sometimes we may think, oh, if I get huge money, I can do this for ISKCON, I can do this for Prabhupada, I can do this in devotional service. Most likely not. There are financial biases, there are behavioral biases, that when we don't have the thing, we think that if I would have had, I could do so much of things. Like I remember when my salary was 10,000 rupees, I used to think, oh, when my salary becomes 40,000, 10,000 rupees, so I will just donate like this every month. And then, but salary kept on increasing, the donation remained there only. So when you don't have it, it is always an illusion. In illusion, we think that when I have it, I will do it. Why we are thinking like that? Because we don't have it. And Lord knows this. And therefore, Lord will save his devotee from material entanglement. And that's why a devotee also should not excessively pray for one's material advancement. Because what we are praying for, it may be our own destruction. We do not know. Just like we see, there are so many examples, that by the benediction itself, the person was destroyed. By the benediction itself. We see Bhasmasur, Vrikasur, and so many other people. They got the benediction, they were unable to handle the benediction, and the benediction itself, destroyed such personalities. The typical example is Maharaj Nahusha. So Nahusha, he became Indra, and he was so lusty after Indrani, and Sachi, she is Pativrata. And she was, because of certain things, the Indra, her husband, has fallen to take another birth. And in the meantime, this Nahusha was appointed as a Karyakari king, in the working arrangement of the king, and he got lusty towards Indrani. And because of that, he offended the Saptarshis and fell down. Right. So all material benedictions are not always the benediction. And that's why the beautiful prayer of Dhruva, Kachan Vichinvan Api Divya Ratnam. He's saying that, my dear Lord, Swami Krutarthosmi Varam Nayache. So the beauty of the Lord is he is ready to sanction anything for a devotee. And the beauty of a devotee is that he is reluctant to ask anything apart from pure devotional service. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. There is only one verse to conclude this chapter, but anyway, we will take this verse tomorrow. We will also revise the chapter a little bit because we did not see the revision, and we'll continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.